Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching the exhaustive coverage of Times Now, where we tell you about what are the highlights of Prime Minister's visit to France. Prime Minister Narendra Modi, along with French President Emmanuel Macron, are participating in the Bastille Day Parade. The grand celebrations began at Champs-Élysées in Paris, with the French President arriving at the main stage after receiving a guard of honor. French First Lady as well as Prime Minister of the country received Prime Minister Narendra Modi at the parade. An Indian Tri-Services contingent is also a part of this parade. 3 Indian Air Force Rafael fighter jets are also participating with a flypast over the Champs-Élysées in Paris. My colleague Rishabh joins us for more details. Rishabh, what are we likely to expect in the course of the day now?
Now, from here on, once the Bastille Day is over, we also have a press briefing by the contingent Indian Armed Forces. Then we'll have a state welcome for the Prime Minister and state banquet as well. Between these state banquet and press briefings, there will be meetings with the thought leaders and other CEOs in France with Prime Minister Modi. Delegation level talks will happen. Bilateral between the French President and Prime Minister will also happen. And then just before leaving, there will be a joint statement where we are expecting the announcement for the Rafael M deal as well as the Scorpion class submarine that have been cleared by DAC only yesterday. So that is what we are expecting today. So a packed day from here on for the Prime Minister, where he'll be meeting the President of France for bilateral talks. Delegation level talks will happen, as well as thought leader and CEO level talks will also happen. So a packed day today, all business, hard talks are now to begin.
As we look at the visuals coming in from the parade, Rishabh, if you could also just break down for us what is this parade all about? Why is it important? Then Prime Minister of India has been invited to be a guest of honor at this.
Well, see, first of all, Bastille Day is the national day for France. This is the day when the French Revolution began, and it can be seen as the end of monarchy in France. Why is Prime Minister invited this year? Because India and France are celebrating 25 years of strategic partnership. And remember, France is one of the closest ally of India in Europe, and France was the only European country which did not levy any sanction. They did not slap us with any sanction when in 1998 we did the Pokhran nuclear test. All other European nations did sanction India in aftermath of that nuclear test. So India and France go back in time. Be it the First World War, be it the Second World War, Indian soldiers have fought in France for the liberty of France against the Axis powers. So definitely, if you see, India and France do have an historical bonding. In last 25 years, India and France have emerged as strategic partner, and now from here on, both the countries want to go ahead and have people-to-people connect, and that connect is something that is very, very important. Apart from defense deal or the energy deal, whatever India and France is signing, but there are things that both the governments want to be at people-to-people. For example, the Indian students who will be pursuing masters in French universities will get a 5-year-long visa, which means that after finishing their course, they can still be in France for a period of 5 years, including the course where they can look for jobs. So the skill management between both the countries will prosper here on. Apart from that, remember, Prime Minister announced that UPI will work in France, which means that we can go scan the QR code and pay directly from our account. So the whole money that as a tourist or as a student you lose in commission for the exchange of currency, that thing has been done away with between India and France. So these are the connects that India and France are looking forward to. So definitely, defense is the major sector where both these countries have partnered in last 2.5 decades. But from here on, both the countries will look to be, prosper with people-to-people connect between them.
That is also something that Prime Minister highlighted yesterday in his over 70-minute-long address to Indian diaspora at the iconic Parisian monument last night. Joining me now on the broadcast to help us understand the significance of this trip is Lieutenant General Sarjan Kulkarni, who is ex-DG of Infantry, and Pathikrit Pain, who is a geopolitical analyst. Lieutenant General Kulkarni, coming to you first. You know, when people look at these parades, they're generally display of military might of the country that also commemorates the past. But behind this optics is also a bigger message that is sent out. And if you could just help us understand the message that this parade and Indian Prime Minister's presence there sends out.
Thank you. At the very outset, I think we must greet all our French friends a very happy National Day. Now, it's on this occasion, and primarily when you look back, like what the reporter was talking about, French Revolution, equality, fraternity, all what we talk about is stand for freedom is what it is all about. France has, over the years, turned out to be the most dependable strategic partner, and that is something which we have to look at it. Since 1998, if you look at it, despite what the nuclear explosion, when the Americans, everyone imposed sanctions on us, France stood by us. And it is this event, as 25 years, that the strategic partnership today, that we have the Prime Minister of India being invited. Invariably, the heads of the state are invited. But here, the Prime Minister of India has been invited to be the guest of honor. And what a lovely parade. Over 269 of our own tri-service contingent. The Punjab regiment participating was there. The Rajah Flag was there. Besides this, the flypast, we had our Rafael, we had the Globe Masters. So you find that this kind of a bonhomie, this kind of a respect for each other, both the countries, looking at strategic autonomy. We are part, even though France also had that initial hiccups with NATO, that they pulled out in 1966 from the military part of the NATO. But despite that, France has been looking for strategic autonomy, found how the French president has also been, his relations with Russia, his relations with China, his relations with India. Now you find that overall, this kind of a strategic autonomy, which France also desires, and which India is not a part of any group. And India has all along been expecting it and also been stating it in no certain terms that we are non-aligned, that whatever we do is in our national interest. And so does French. And therefore the values between France and India seem to coincide. And that is where we find that this particular relationship between France and India just not confining itself to military or space. It was education, it was counter-terrorism, cyber, you have this solar energy, you have science and technology, what the Prime Minister yesterday said, what exchanges with student programs would be for 2 years, it extended to 5 years, this kind of involvement. We have an $85 billion trade with France. He said yesterday we have $100 billion remittance that come from abroad, from the Indian diaspora. That's the kind of relationship that we have with our diaspora abroad and also with France. And this relationship, co-production, co-development, the transfer of technology, the absorption of it, the ability to absorb all of this high-tech technology, even the aircraft engines to be able to come, the helicopter engines to be able to come from France,
right.
Over here. I think all of it is something that we can be proud of. And once this kind of a relationship takes place, strategic autonomy, strategic partner, all along we've been interdependent.
Yes. And as one of the biggest buyers of French arms, there is also, Mr. Payne, some sort of reciprocity between the two countries now. And the point being highlighted there is also that India is no more just an alliance. It is an area, it is an era of allegiances where you can have issue-based support. It is no more either you are with us or against us.
Yes, absolutely. I think, India has evolved as a country where many of these Western power blocs have stopped looking at India through the prism of binaries, which means they don't look at it either you are with us or you are against us. So they know that as a country which has evolved through difficult times to become the 5th largest economy of the world, which is a reasonable military powerhouse with considerable amount of influence in the global south, this country on certain occasions would have a difference with the West, and it does have difference whether you talk about issues related to Quad or whether you talk about issues related to the Ukraine-Russia war. there is a divergence of views, there is a divergence of standpoint. But I think what has happened in the last 7-8 years is the manner in which Prime Minister Modi-led India government has been able to convince and communicate to the Western power blocs that, listen, on certain issues, keeping the Indian interest in mind, we would go ahead with what is best in the national interest for India. But it doesn't mean that we are going to burn our bridges with you. So in that way, the manner in which communication happened, so whether you talk about the CAATSA sanctions of United States, which they waived off for India, because India went ahead and acquired the S-400 and several other weapon systems from Russia, in spite of the CAATSA sanctions when they're taking the oil from Russia in a very defiant manner. And we must admit that had we not taken the oil from Russia, had we not continued taking the oil from Russia, we would have faced very difficult situations. And in that case, India would not have emerged as the 5th largest economy of the world during a very tumultuous time for the world.
Right, and negotiating between the convergences and the divergences is quite a tightrope walk there, but Prime Minister has on most occasions managed to do that successfully. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me on the broadcast. We need to take a very quick break.